Hello ladies and lads, welcome to another video. Now you're probably going to see this video first, even though I recorded the one that's coming out on the 25th before this. But this is an IRL video because by the time you are seeing this, it is my birthday. And I always do something special. I always do a video for my birthday, whether it's me actually recording on my birthday or whatever the fuck. So today I decided to come up with the idea of sharing one of my interests with you all. You see that? You see that shelf right there? This one that has a bunch of D&D stuff on it because I am a nerd. And so for today's birthday video, the very impromptu idea that I had was to talk about the latest Dungeons and Dragons book, or more books, Planescape, because I got it, and I regret spending so much on this. So, because this video is coming out on my birthday, it's more or less, I want to make this, so... yeah, this isn't going to be like a regular, I'm not going to turn into like a D&D commentary channel or anything like that. This is more or less just kind of a one-off because I had no other ideas. So, let's talk about Planescape. This is a very underwhelming set. So this is one of the ones that comes in a set of 3 books and a Dungeon Master screen. Don't get me wrong, this Dungeon Master screen is fucking awesome. But the books themselves, underwhelming, shall I say. Now, what Planescape is it introduces the multiverse into Dungeons and Dragons. And not in the sense of what most superhero movies are doing nowadays, where it's like alternate timelines and whatnot. This is quite literally multiple realms in a single universe. So right here, you can see this is what it is. All right, this is Planescape. All right, this is essentially connecting a bunch of realms and a city in like multiverse style stuff. And it's really cool. It's a really interesting idea and concept and whatnot, and there's so much potential here, but they fucked it up. They fucked it up. Not the setting. The setting is awesome. They nailed putting the setting together perfectly with like all the details and whatnot. However, all those details leads to one problem. You can't make a good enough character for this. And they don't have good enough characters. So one of the things that they use to advertise Planescape is to go ahead and create a character that, like, extraplanar character or some shit like that, to like connect it to the multiverse theme. They don't provide enough stuff for this. Now, what I mean is that the character options in this for players to make characters more attuned to the setting, there's not enough. There are backgrounds. There's creating your own faction, stuff like that, some feats, but they're heavily tied down. They're heavily bogged down by this specific setting. What would be great is if we could have something like Spelljammer where we could add in, like we can mix together Spelljammer with our own campaigns, which is something that I've been doing with my own personal campaign for a little bit now. I'm hoping to one day actually record those campaigns. It's just kind of a work in progress right now. There's very specific things for this. There's the spells, the magic items that come with this is very heavily specific to this setting. I mean, the only 2 spells that we get are both heavily tied to this setting and very specific for this setting, and something that I would not see any of my players picking if they chose a spellcaster class. They would not be picking fucking Gate Seal or Warp Sense to detect where portals are and to close them if they want to, because there's just not a whole lot of theme of portals in my campaign, so there'd be no sense to it. Not a whole lot of people immediately think, oh yeah, let's add like 1 billion portals to my setting. Now, of course, there is the Planescape setting with very few portals. So this, it's as if this was specifically made for this very singular campaign. Like everything in this book was made specifically, of like the character options was specifically made for the campaign that comes with it for very specific uses. And that is bad. That is very bad. The reason why that is bad is because it does not allow for players to utilize these things in other campaigns. The magic items that it comes with are there is an interesting one here. The Mimir head is indeed interesting. It's essentially like a clockwork skull that allows for like knowledge and whatnot. But you would have to homebrew it because it's mainly meant for the Planescape one. It's not hard to homebrew it. It's quite literally just have it essentially cast legend lore and whatnot. But it is frustratingly tied heavily, at least the description on here is heavily tied down to the setting itself. There's only 3 magic items. One of them is one that I have not read yet. The other 2 are heavily tied to this setting. And I'm just more or less wishing that they would have added in more things that would be more universal, things that we could add to something other, like some other campaign, to our own personal campaigns. Just more stuff, more reasons to open up this book rather than just opening up like the player's handbook or something else. Give us something new is what I'm asking, instead of something that is heavily tied to specifically this campaign. So one of my biggest complaints is that it did not add in any new races, and there was ultimately 2 chances for them to add in like 2 races. They could have added in any of them that come in this book, which is the monster book that typically comes with these book sets. They had, in my personal opinion, they had the chance to add in the Musteval Guardian, which would have been sick. It would have been cool. That would have been a very cool brand new race for them to add in. But ultimately they didn't, which is saddening. I'd say one of the positives with the monster side of the book here is that they did add in a little bit more of a description for Githzerai, because I feel like that's been not talked enough about race. It's essentially the cousin race to the Githyanki, and Githzerai, in my personal opinion, are pretty interesting because they're more psychic focused, a little bit more peaceful, stuff like that. So yeah, they ultimately had so many like different chances for different races here, and it would have been awesome. For example, another one is of a very specific character for the Planescape setting that they added in just this one character. Her. It is specific. She's based heavily around like a fox and whatnot, because I guess she's supposed to be like cunning or some shit. She runs a casino. They didn't add in like a specific race that we could have our players pick, or that we could make characters around. She's apparently an Arcanoloth, or whatever, Yugoloth. She's a fiend. It's very weird, but they could have made this would have been the chance for them to make a fox-based race, like how Pathfinder has the Kitsune race. They could have made a fox-like race for D&D. Perfect chance here. Did not take it. Another thing that another one of my likes with this was bringing in time dragons, because that is a fucking awesome sounding thing to bring in. So yeah, I'm a little happy about that. But ultimately, my disappointment is from the fact that it's just heavily bogged down by just this one adventure that you can play with it. And ultimately, I feel like if they add in another adventure that is tied to the Planescape one, maybe its own standalone book, like how Spelljammer has the Radiant Circle adventure, I feel like they should add in some of the races, maybe a subclass, stuff like that. Just make it less tied to the Planescape one, but have it more better if you are in that setting. Have more skill, more skills, more things you can do, but also have some uses outside of the setting. Because if the players are just wandering through on a different campaign, I don't want the player to feel like the character that they made with all the special Planescape stuff would be tied down. That is, if there were things to add in for the players from this. Once again, don't get me wrong, this is entirely fleshed out. I mean, look at this map. This is a city. This entire thing right here is a city. All of it. And then look at this, there's a backside to it. They have it fleshed out. They have the overall setting of like the city and whatnot all fleshed out. All they would need to do is add in more character options, like Spelljammer, for example. I mean, in this book, we got so many different racial additions to this. We got Astral Elves, we got Autognomes, we got GIF, or GIF, we got Hadazes, we got Plasmoids, and we got 3-Kreen. And not only that, in this same book, we also got motherfucking ships. We got an entire section at the end that are just ships, like, for the players to use. And the best part is that it comes with descriptions that say whether or not it can float or sail on water or land. So you can quite literally bring the Spelljammer ships to your own settings as a way for your players to transport around your worlds. It is nuts how much you can do with just this book. And might I remind you, there's 3 of them. There's so much you can do. I mean, one of them is specifically a campaign, but, you know, the other one has a bunch of monsters you can fuck around with. And it just comes with so much. And that is why I'm disappointed that the other book set that is specifically tied around a campaign and isn't just three like starter books or whatever. I lost what I was saying. Is why I'm disappointed that the only other proper book set is so lacking in the department of things for the characters to do with stuff tied to that setting. You could bring a Spelljammer ship into your campaign. You could have so many things. I get that there are some things, like the few criticisms I have with Spelljammers, the spells and the magic items specifically tied to that area, but at least with those ones, you could bring them into your world. without having to change them a whole lot. You can have a Spelljammer a Spelljammer helm in a fucking Dragon Horde if you wanted to, because at least it was described as expensive and shiny. So, you know, you would have a reason to bring it into your world and then introduce your players to Spelljammer over time. But with Planescape, it is so heavily bogged down by wanting to have portals, having this very specific setting. You can barely use any of the things inside of Planescape that are meant for the players outside of the Planescape setting. You can't take stuff out of the Outlands or out of Sigil. You have to use them in that setting, and that's the disappointing part. That's the That's the part that I'm disappointed in, is the sheer amount of restrictiveness with it. So that is my criticism. That is my criticism with Planescape. They could fix all of the complaints that I had with another book that is specifically Planescape. But for right now, we're getting the Book of Many Things that is coming up in November, which I am excited about. Please don't disappoint me this time. Ultimately, that is all that I have for the video. This was meant to be my birthday video because I wanted to do something that I liked. Didn't have enough time to play a game and go through all that, but I did have enough time to rant about Dungeons and Dragons. So thank you all for watching, and I will see you all later. My voice is getting tired. Bye.